We're continuing today in Siman Resh Nun Bet. We spoke about items that you start on Friday before Shabbat that continues into Shabbat that is okay. So we gave an example, the Shulchan Aruch gives an example of, let's say, before Shabbat you put into a vat, you put different types of spices and colors in order to add water to it so that, let's say, the color blue, you make this entire vat of water that dye of blue. So the process takes a long time, so you started on Friday, and let's say on Shabbat it finishes, that's okay if you started it on a Friday. Or let's say, the Shulchan Aruch is going to talk about, let's say you put wheat in a mill back in the day, and automatically when the water in that river moves that mill, then it's going to cause that the wheat that you put there is going to get crushed. So let's say you put in a bunch of wheat kernels on a Friday, and you left it there, and then automatically it started crushing, and over Shabbat, that would be okay. So Rav Ovadia Yosef added that if you start something on a Friday that really only causes the thing to start on Shabbat, that would also work. So for instance, he says, let's say a timer. So on Shabbat, on Friday, I set a timer so that my lights go on Shabbat at this time. So it's only starting on Shabbat, but because I really set it from before, that's also still okay. Now talking about timers, maybe you've seen some of the older timers are those little plastic pins that so you could have even a timer on a plug where it's these plastic pins, and when the item gets to that pin, then it turns off or turns on. So what about on Shabbat if I'm allowed to move some of those plastic pins to continue? Let's say I set the timer on Friday that the light should go off at 11 p.m. on Shabbat, Friday night. I'm having a good time, having guests. It's approaching 11. I would love the lights to stay on longer. So am I allowed to click those pins, which is just little plastic pieces, so that when it's about to go off, it's actually going to stay on longer? So on Shabbat to do that, so Rav Ovadia Yosef says that it is allowed to be done, provided you have to be careful that sometimes if you play with that, it could turn the whole thing off right away. You got to be careful with that. But you are allowed to extend if the light is supposed to get off at 11 and you want to extend that, that's allowed. What about if I want to save? So meaning I set it for 11, but really we're tired, it's 10 o'clock, and I would like to go to sleep earlier, and I'd like the lights off earlier, and I know it's 9 o'clock now, and I want it off at 10. Can I push it in a way that it's going to come off earlier? So that you should be more strict upon. That's what Rav Ovadia Yosef says, unless there's an extra reason for it, like someone that's sick, or for a mitzvah purpose. But Rabbi Shalom Asas writes in the Shem Shum again that in either direction, either turning it off earlier or turning it the light should last later, both cases are called a grama, a cause, and it's not a direct action. And because it was set really before Shabbat, so you just adding the pins or taking off the pins before, then it is mutar. It's allowed in either direction. Just one last point is another example. Is this allowed? We know that you're not allowed to do business on Shabbat, but what if I do a business deal, but it only kicks in on Shabbat? For instance, you sell a house and you say, okay, well, now the first of the month, that's when you're going to own the house. You look at the calendar, first of the month is Shabbat. But a lot of times, the way things work out is that it's, you just got to be consistent. The first of the month, that's always the easiest way to work things. So if you do, let's say, make a transaction on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, whenever it is, and it's going to kick in on Shabbat, and that is also allowed because you started it before Shabbat. So now it doesn't mean the guy can move in on Shabbat or whatever, but he acquires ownership on Shabbat. That came from something that was signed a few days before on the weekday. That is allowed as well. So we'll continue, B'ezrat Hashem, to learn such types of cases. Mincha tonight is at 7:05. And Gemara Shiur and Haftarah Shiur combo tonight at 8:30. Be'ezrat Hashem. Have a good day, everyone. Tana Dev Eliyahu.